Three things that don't bother me as a white person. Number one, when a person of color says they don't trust white people, I absolutely understand the sentiment. I'm not offended if you don't immediately trust all white people.
Yo, do black people ever be like, yo, I want to be friends with like a white guy? Because that's like different and cool, you know? Do they do that? Do they think like that? Because as a white person, I'll be thinking like, I'm mainly friends with white people, and it's just like, you know, it would be so cool to have like a brother best friend, you know?
And this is what gets me with the average white person in America. Anytime that black people speak on the realities of the long-term effects of the racial history in America, not just slavery, but Jim Crow and segregation and all of these things, they act like, oh, you're dividing us. And
I've learned to feel uncomfortable around white people. I grew up in a predominantly white community. I didn't get exposed to more black people that grew up around black people until I was older. I've learned to feel uncomfortable around white people.
Hold on. There is something going on right now, and a lot of people are confused. You have probably seen the conversation online, people asking, why is there so much distrust? Why does it feel like we are not on the same page? And for some folks, it genuinely doesn't make sense, but for others, it makes perfect sense. Here, see, here's the thing people doesn't always want to talk about. Trust doesn't just appear overnight. It builds slowly over time. And once it's broken, it doesn't come back easily. Now, imagine generation of experience, stories passed down, moment that shapes how people see the world. That's kind of history it's take. So when some people say, why don't they just trust the white folks? They are looking at the present. But others are looking at the past and the present at the same time.
This is why people don't trust white people, because it is peak whiteness and colonizer behavior to demand civility for a man who denies others their humanity. That's the oppressor, and we do not need to sympathize or empathize with them. And don't get me wrong, because I long for a world where there is no violence in it. But until all of us are free, none of us are free. And violence is part of the equation because of the oppressor, not the oppressed. We need to understand that violence comes in many forms, and white people need to learn it most of all. And if none of that is enough to convince you, then how about the fact that Charlie Kirk said empathy is a made-up new age word that does harm, and that is the one directive of his that I am willing to honor.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
And this is what gets me with the average white person in America. Anytime that black people speak on the realities of the long-term effects of the racial history in America, not just slavery, but Jim Crow and segregation and all of these things, they act like, oh, you're dividing us. And like slavery was so long ago and like white people aren't racist anymore and you just want people to be divided. You're spreading hate. But the thing about y'all saying that that's division, why would I want to integrate like socially with people who are not even aware of how the past affects the present and how that's affecting people today, especially considering that there are real life atrocities taking place before our very eyes in our own country at the hands of the current administration. And the black people may not be the main target, but like white people are still imparting violence on other groups of people on the basis of their nationality and skin color. Like that's still a reality, and a lot of y'all don't think that it's your place to talk about it as a white person because you're white and you're not an immigrant. So like whatever, it's not my business. But then y'all will say, y'all are dividing us, y'all are trying to keep us divided. Why would we want to be integrated with y'all? Why would we want to be in spaces with y'all? Y'all don't even care about anybody else's reality or perspective but your own. Why would we want to be integrated with y'all? Why would we want to be in any space with y'all? A lot of y'all are ideologically and intellectually dangerous to people of color. At very least, y'all are bystanders and complicit. Why would we want to, like, hello? And just because you're not raising your hand to participate in violence towards people, but you're not doing anything to stop it either, as a white person who is the beneficiary of your ancestors' violence, they did it for you. I think y'all forget that part. They did it so that you could be a bystander and be complicit and not be actively participating in liberation of all peoples. They did it for you, and you're doing exactly what they wanted you to do, sitting around watching people be brutalized and still treated poorly and allowing systemic ideals to maintain and prevail and not doing anything about it. That's on y'all to fix. It's not on us. Like we can bring it, we can make it, we can make you aware of it, because obviously as a white person in America, you're not going to be aware of like the specific racial reality that everybody else has to deal with, but you could at least be willing to listen and learn and understand and then take action from there, and y'all aren't. It's like, you know what you know about race as a white person in America, and you leave it at that, and you just like, oh, like I pay my taxes and I put a Black Lives Matter sign up in my window and like, yeah, I'm doing my thing, yeah, I'm doing nobody wants to be around that.
3 things that don't bother me as a white person. Number 1, when a person of color says they don't trust white people, I absolutely understand the sentiment and am not offended if you don't immediately trust all white people on account of white people colonizing the world and then setting up a system of slavery and not taking accountability for any of the racism. I think this is a totally valid statement. It doesn't bother me because I don't feel like I contribute to the system in this way. Number 2, when a person of color says they don't date white people. Again, I'm not offended by this, because even if the white person that you're seeing is really cool, their parents or their family might be crazy. They might be uber racist or come from a really strange environment and family that, quite frankly, you don't want to be involved with. That doesn't make you feel safe, which makes sense. And number 3, when people of color don't follow white feminist accounts. I understand there's a lot of white feminists who don't talk about intersectionality at all, or queer white feminists who don't talk about intersectionality, which is bizarre because every single struggle is so intimately connected. If any of these things bother you, you are taking this way too personally, and I recommend that you do the work to deconstruct what's going on. Because not everything's about you, and there's a racist system in place that you are probably contributing to. Okay, bye! We talk about how ironic it is that the right demonizes people of color when the only time I feared for my life has been around a white man. I get so many hate comments like these few here. Most of the time I just write it off as immature, angry men, but the times that I've genuinely been scared that violence was going to be inflicted upon me have been white men. Not to mention,
Yo, do black people ever be like, yo, I want to be friends with like a white guy? Because that's like different and cool, you know? Do they do that? Do they think like that? Because as a white person, I'll be thinking like, I'm mainly friends with white people, and it's just like, you know, it would be so cool to have like a brother best friend, you know? Right?
Black people don't think about white people at all. And why this is so confusing for white people is that in order to be racist, you have to be obsessed with the thought of somebody being black in order to wake up every day and hate us and hate our existence and try to oppress blackness. It is not a part of our culture to think about white people, to want to aspire towards assimilation to whiteness, to emulate any parts of white culture, or just think about anything y'all got going on. We have way too much going on in our lives, surviving and existing amongst each other and in this country that has been trying to oppress us and subjugate us since inception of us here, than to be thinking about what y'all got going on. And as someone who went to a lot of white schools growing up, and I do have a lot of white friends, I can guarantee you my parents didn't put me in a situation to go to the schools I was in that probably wouldn't have white friends, because we don't think about partnering up with y'all in the same way that you want us to think you're cool. It's like white people want black people to think, oh yeah, you guys are cool. Like, it's weird. It's just like the Young Republican group chat where they were talking about black people, about raping us and killing us and lynching us. It's like every signal chat. Like the girl recently saying, I can't wait to bring back segregated schools so we can get the real stuff going on. Black people are not sitting around thinking about ways to get rid of white people. We are just trying to live and survive and be in community with each other. You guys need to focus more on yourselves and be in community with each other. That's the problem. Y'all are so individualistic that y'all are going fucking crazy because y'all don't have a community. I've never once in my life said, I think I really may want a white friend. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, little bro. I'm sorry you think we're cool and you want a black brother, you want a black friend. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Don't fetishize us. And that's the problem. Like, the obsession borders fetishization, which borders like mania, which then internally makes y'all feel crazy. And then it comes out as racism. Listen, it's a lot to unpack there with your video. But to answer your question, nah, bruh. We do not think about you ever at all. And when we do, it's only when y'all do some really fucked up weird shit online or in person and we have to respond to it. Other than that,
expecting black people to blindly trust white people is insane, because where is the lineage? Where is the ancestors? Where are their children of the people that was screaming and chasing and hosing black people down? Remember, those people had jobs, right? Those were firefighters, EMTs, and police officers. So if you say y'all been polices for 6 generations, in Detroit, in Alabama, where? I need to know. I need to know your lineage. I need to know them people that was putting teeth in their mouth of children. That's your granddaddy? That's your great-grandpa? Okay? Those ladies that were standing behind that lunch counter saying, these are white-only pies. Is that your auntie? I need to know. I want to know. I'm just saying.
Lately, people have been assuming that I have white friends, and I have become more and more irritated because it's really offensive. And before you're like, oh, why is it offensive that people assume you have white friends? Let me show you the school I went to. I do rep my W gear at least once a week because I am proud of the school I went to, because I'm proud of myself for graduating. But this is the type of shit I had to deal with, and this is why I don't have any white friends, especially from W. Because what do you mean you held a visual for Charlie Kirk? These were the same people that were happy that Trump won that first election that he won. I had to walk around campus next to a whole bunch of white people with MAGA hats on. Do you know how comfortable that is for me? You think I can trust any of those white people that went to this school? So when people assume I have white friends, yes, I get offended. Because that means I would be a coon. And I never want to be labeled one of those. Okay, if I became friends with anybody from that white school, they wouldn't be able to be trusted. I'm sorry. Like, I wouldn't trust them, because if not them, their family. If not their parents, their grandparents.
White people on the internet always seem to be confused as to why they're being accused of racism. And an example of this that I see every single day on this app is some random person of color will make a TikTok and like hashtag Black Girl Magic or something along those lines. And every single time, without hesitation, some white person will be in the comments being like, well, what about white people? How come I can't say white girl magic? You'd call me racist then. And this presents what sociologists like to call a double bind. The double bind here is that when people of color talk about their oppression as it relates to white people, they're told to shut up about it, or that it's not white people, it's their own cultural mishaps or whatever. But then when people of color talk about their own personal empowerment within their group, then white people always want to interject and be like, well, what about white people? So we force people of color into these safe spaces, and then we sit there and complain and accuse them of racism when they participate in their own safe spaces. Make this make sense.
Some of the most racist people that I've ever been around are the kindest to animals. They will sit there and dote on their dogs and just like really make sure they have the most pampered, amazing life possible, while at the same time defending police violence, using racist dog whistles, or even criticizing movements that promote social equality. You would think that that compassion for humans and animals go hand in hand, but for many people it does not. Because ultimately they see their pets as an extension of themselves, whereas with other people who are members of minority groups, they see them as this distinct and separate entity. That's why you'll also see white people have a lot more sympathy for the white South African immigrants that came here. Their empathy only goes as far as themselves or their families, so that includes their dogs, that includes people with the same skin color as them. But the second they are asked to empathize beyond that, that's when it stops, because their hatred has consumed them, which has led to a historic pattern of white people treating their animals better than human beings. And when they owned human beings and animals, the animals were treated much better.
No, 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 no. Do not come and find me. Find another white woman. Find another white woman. Why find a black person? We probably somewhere out with our kids, nieces, nephews, some other black child. Why do we have to take time from that black child to now focus on the white child? You're still centering yourself. No. And matter of fact, because you know I got stories for days, I'll give you a story. I take my kids to the park. It's a white lady with her 2 older sons there already, probably maybe 8, 10, and 11. My children are very small right now, or at that time, 2, 7, or 2 and 9. We're there. We ain't got no problems. I ain't talking to her. She ain't talking to me. Another white lady comes with her 2 daughters. We'll say 4 and 2. The little white boy, 10 years old, proceeds to kick this 2-year-old baby off top of a playset. So, of course, the mom with the daughters goes over to the little boy and she's like, hey, don't do that. The white mom of the little boys goes over and yells at the other white mom with the daughters. You don't talk to my son like that. If you have an issue, you come and talk to me. You address me. So then the white mom with the daughters, she's like, you need to teach your son not to be kicking women, kicking girls. Like, what is going on? You don't tell me what you need to teach, what I need to teach my children. These are my kids. You don't tell them anything. And therein lies raising a school shooter. Therein lies raising a school shooter. He did something wrong. But the white woman with the 2 daughters looked at me as if I was supposed to come and interfere in this white altercation. That is not my business. I am not, girl, I'm here. I brought my kids here. I'm just here for the show. I didn't know I was going to get a show when I came, but baby, now I'm here for the show. Stop telling your children to look for black people. Do not look for us. Find refuge in your community. Find refuge in other white women. And if you don't like other white women, then be in community and have conversations with them about why you don't tell your kids to go and find solace in them. Leave us the fuck out of it. No. I've learned to feel uncomfortable around white people. I grew up in a predominantly white community. I didn't get exposed to more black people that grew up around black people until I was older. I've learned to feel uncomfortable around white people. Black people have unraveled so many different racist things that white people have done around me, to me, that I never noticed. I've learned from white people being around them that they've made such disrespectful remarks with a light execution so that it's interpreted as a joke, you know, the passive aggressive racial things. I've naturally learned to start feeling uncomfortable. Almost every single white person that I've met in my life that I've trusted has all said something that lets me know they look at black people as beneath them. I have white relatives that will denounce black people when they're extremely angry. I've worked in customer service around white people, and when a very angry, irate customer comes in that's black, after they leave, they refer to them as ghetto. And the same thing happens with a white person, and they refer to them as a bitch. I've been around white people who use a black person's dark skin as one of the adjectives making him or her ugly. I've been told it's a good thing I don't look like a black girl. I've had white people tell me that my mom is a Tigger lover. I've also been told I'm lucky I don't have nappy hair. A white person also told me to go live on welfare like the black bitch I am. So how exactly am I supposed to feel comfortable around white people after that? Because people be trying to tell me slavery doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it needs to. for me to feel uncomfortable.
A message for white people, white women in particular. If trust isn't given to us, we must earn it. In many workplaces, black colleagues meet white women with caution, and that is not hostility. It's really rational and based on history. White women have often been protected by systems that harm black people. We've also repeatedly been believed at the expense of black safety, right? So I'm one of the good ones doesn't mean anything on its own. If we want to be experienced as safe, we have to be safe in ways that are visible and consistent. 3 things maybe to keep in mind. Listen without centering ourselves. No defensiveness, no bloody fragility, no emotional rerouting. 2, let actions speak louder than any allyship language. Patterns build trust, not posts, not performance, patterns. And number 3, use our access and credibility to challenge harm, not just when it's convenient, not just when black colleagues are watching. Trust is not owed to us. Safety is not assumed, and allyship is not self-declared. If the default is mistrust, the responsibility really is on us to close that gap through accountability, humility, and behavior over time. So the question for white women in leadership really is, how do I show I can be counted on?
Why do most black people not trust white people? Let's talk about it. Let's get into it, because you may have heard some black people say, hey, I don't trust white people. Nope. I don't mess with them like that. I don't trust white people. And you may have thought to yourself like, wow, that's racist, right? You may have said that to yourself like, wow, that's really racist. It's not, by the way. It's prejudice. It's not racist. And I've had videos talking about the difference between racism, discrimination, and prejudice. So you can go back and watch those to get some clarity on the differences between those 3 words. They are not interchangeable. They are not synonymous. So no. So make sure you just educate yourself about that. But anyhow, let's talk about that though. Because if a black person is saying, well, I don't really trust white people like that, why would they be saying that? Where is that coming from? I'm going to let you know. I'm going to break it down for you real quick. So pay attention and watch this video all the way to the end, okay? Now, have you ever been in a relationship, okay, where you're with somebody and they're telling you, I love you, I care about you, I want to be with you, and you find that throughout the relationship, their words are not matching up with their actions. Like, you just said that you love me, you care about me, you want to be with me, but yet you're doing these things that are giving me a completely different message, right? I talk to you about different issues, different behaviors you're engaging in that I don't like. And I ask you, please, let's don't do that. Let's stop that, because that's causing a problem in our relationship. It's causing me not to trust you. So let's stop doing that and do this instead. And you're like, oh, I feel you. I got you. I love you. I care about you. I'm not going to do that anymore. But then you still keep doing it. Saying one thing with your mouth, but you're doing something else every day with your actions, and they're not lining up. And what does that do? It causes a schism, right? It causes division. It causes a lack of trust. And so when you hear black people saying, I don't trust white people, I don't mess with white people like that, it's because there has been a schism. There has been a division, and there has been a breach of the trust. Because what a lot of white folks have done, if we just only look at the past 4 years, forget about history. That's a whole other thing. Just let's look at the past 4 years since 2020. So many self-proclaimed white allies were saying, Black Lives Matter, and yes, for equality and equity and reparations, and we're standing against racial injustice, and we're fighting against white supremacy culture and all this stuff with their mouth, right? Maybe on social media. And then what happened with their actions? Their actions weren't lining up. That's why I'm always telling you, don't talk about it, be about it. Let your actions speak for themselves. You don't have to go around telling people, I'm not racist. I may be white, but I'm not racist. What are you talking about? We don't need you to tell us. Show us. Show us through your actions. That's how we'll know you're not one of those, right? It's about your actions, not your words. You have to make a decision to become an active part of the solution. Otherwise, you're being a passive part of the problem, or an active part of the problem, right? So you can't sit back and be like and say, well, hey, I didn't do anything. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not racist. It ain't me. It's them. It's just those people. No. Doing nothing is a problem, because then you're allowing things to happen around you. So even in doing nothing, you're doing something, and that's causing a problem. And that's why black people don't trust you, because you say, oh yeah, I care about you, I support you, equality, yeah, Black Lives Matter, whatever. Let's just treat everybody equally, and let's just be loving, and let's not talk about what divides us and what separates us, but let's just focus on what brings us together. Well, that requires a certain level of action and a certain type of action from you as a white person, when you are the beneficiary of the same systems of oppression, anti-black racism, systemic racism, white supremacy culture that are harming us, that are killing us, that are holding us back, that are oppressing us, that are marginalizing us, that are discriminating against us. But you're saying, hey, I didn't do anything, I'm not doing nothing, hey, it's not me, it's them. That's not helpful. We don't trust you because you're not an active part of the solution, and your words are not aligning with your actions. So it's time for you to do better. You want to build trust with us? You have to do that through your actions, not your words. But where do you start? You start with anti-racism education so that you can learn the things that you've never learned before, that you weren't taught growing up from your family, that you have not been taught in the racist school system, education system in America. You have to educate yourself first. That's where it starts. I want you to join me for my live online masterclass. It's happening this week. How to embody anti-racism in your relationships, your work life, and your daily practices. It's an online masterclass. You can join me live or you can get access to the replay, but you have to register now to get access and to sign up at that link on my profile. Register now. Let's go. I will see you in class.
That creates a gap, a big one, because one side might feels like we have moved forward while the other side is thinking, have things really changed or just the surface? And that's where the confusions begin. It's not always about one moment, it's about pattern. It's about how people feels when they walk into certain spaces. It's about what they have experienced personally or seen happen to people who look like them. And those experiences they shaped trust. And the lack of it now, here is where it gets deeper. Some people hear that and get defensive. They think, why am I being judged for something I didn't do? And that's a real feelings too. But at the same time, others are thinking this isn't about one person, it's about the system, a pattern, and a history. So now you have got two different perspectives, but feeling misunderstood. And instead of meeting in the middle, they are talking past each other. That's why it feels like confusion, because it is confusion not just about each other, but about how to even have the conversation. But here is the truth: avoiding the conversation doesn't fix anything, shutting it down doesn't build trust, and pretending everything is fine doesn't make the tension disappear. If anything, it makes it grow, because people can feel when something is off